All right, guys. So we are just ready to upload a new section in our YouTube channel that is related to the history. And again, the curriculum is designed for CBSE Class 10 Social Studies people. And the chapter's name is The Rise of Nationalism in Europe. And this is the first chapter of your history textbook. And this is specially designed for Class 10th, keeping in loop CBSE Class 10th 2021 board examination. So we're just going to tell you about the history uh, behind this chapter, the summary, explanation, and certain question and answers which are quite important from the perspective of board 2021. Let's move on ahead. The ideas behind this, and here it goes. Now, some of the various factors which were responsible behind growth of nationalism in Europe, there were some eminent personalities like Giuseppe Mazzini, Napoleon Bonaparte, right, Count Camillo di Cavour. Now, let me briefly summarize rise of nationalism. It was basically started at the moment of French Revolution. The French Revolution was a watershed event in modern European history that began in 1789. So do you remember the date? French Revolution was started in 1789 and it was ended in the late 1790s. With the factor responsible for ending of French Revolution was ascent of Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, Napoleon Bonaparte was the prime factor responsible for French Revolution. Now, he was the inspiring factor, guiding factor, and motivating factor who motivated all the people of France to fight against the existing system. Napoleon Bonaparte basically he was not born in a royal family, but he was having very clear cut concept to grow in power, and he started realizing his dream that making people come together with him, he can easily attain the success, and so he started motivating the people. He started uniting the people of the France to fight against the existing system, and yes, we can say that he succeeded. During this period, French citizens raised and redesigned their country's political landscape, uprooting centuries old institutions such as absolute monarchy and the feudal systems. Now, the upheaval was caused by widespread discontent with the French monarchy and the poor economic policies of that time. The king of France was King Louis XVI, who made his death by guillotine, as did his wife Marie Antoinette. Although it failed to achieve all of its goals, at, and at times degenerated into a chaotic bloodbath, the French Revolution played a critical role in shaping modern nations by showing the world the power inherent in the will of the people. Now, as the 18th century drew to a close, France's costly involvement in the American Revolution, the extravagant spending by King Louis XVI and his predecessors had left the country on the brink of the bankruptcy. Now, which country we're talking about? It's France. Not only were the royal coffers depleted, but 2 decades of poor harvest, drought, cattle disease, and skyrocketing breed prices had kindled unrest among peasants and the urban people. Poor people were not able to satisfy their hunger. They were not able to feed their stomachs. Obviously, uh, an unrest was starting in France. Many expressed their desperation and resentment towards a regime that imposed heavy taxes, but yet they failed to provide any relief by rioting, looting, and striking. So, in the fall of 1786, Louis XVI's Controller General, name was Charles Alexander de Calonne. He proposed a financial reform package that included a universal land tax from which the privileged class would no longer be exempted. Now, to garner support of this measures and forestall a growing aristocratic revolt, the king, Louis XVI, summoned the States General, an assembly representing France's clergy, nobility, and middle class for the first time since 1614. So, after 1614, it was the first time when the king summoned everybody together in his courtyard to have a discussion. And the meeting was scheduled for May 5, 1789. In the meantime, delegates of the three states from each locality would compile list of grievances to present to the king, like what are all the various factors on which discussions is going to be held. And there was another factor, like France's population had changed considerably since 1640. The non-aristocratic members of the third states now represented 98% of the people who could still be overvoted by the other two bodies. Right. So while all the orders shared a common desire for fiscal and judicial reform as well as a more representative form of government, the nobles in particular were loath to give up the privilege they enjoyed under the traditional system. And what else is the important? One sec. Now, so French Revolution of 1789, it was basically a clear expression of nationalism. And the steps taken by French revolutionaries to create a sense of collective identity amongst the French people. They started designing new French flag. States General were elected and renamed National Assembly. Like earlier, the State General was called by its own name, but now it was being renamed as National Assembly. New hymns composed and oaths taken. So it was basically like people started feeling a sense of nationalism in their own heart and soul. They started thinking to fight against the existing systems so that they can improve their conditions of life. They can improve their standard of life. Centralized administrative system was developed. Internal custom duties and dues which were being levied by King Louis XVI, that was also abolished. Uniform system of weights and measures were introduced in the history of France. And French, of course, like for the development of a country, it is always supposed to have a common language for everybody. So French became the common language. Now, Napoleon, talking about Napoleon, played a very important and crucial role in the French Revolution. So he ruled France from 1799 to 1850. Gained absolute powers in 1799 by becoming the first consul. And in 1804, like after rising into the power, he launched his civil code. So you may get a question like, what is the civil code of 1804? So you need to write that it was being launched by Napoleon Bonaparte, and it gives us a brief description about equality before the law. It secured the right to property to each and every individual, simplified administrative measures, abolished feudal system, freed peasants from serfdom and monarchical dues, guild restrictions were removed, transport and communication system were also improved, and Napoleon took away political freedom, increased taxes, imposed censorship, and forced people to join French army. Now, finally, when he rose into the power, now he understood that he has gained all the control over French economy. So he started overruling people's wishes, overruling people's pleasure, and started imposing his own choices over them. So there emerged an aristocracy and a new middle class. Now, the aristocracy was comprised of the land-owning classes who were speaking French, and it was basically a small in group. And the peasantry were consisting majority of population, and it was comprises of middle class. Now, soon people started thinking about the nationalism, liberal nationalism, to make it present in their own country. So, liberalism stands for freedom for the individual and equality for all before the law. A constitution and representative government through parliament. So, now people started demanding these all factors. In the economic sphere, liberalism stood for the freedom of markets and abolition of state imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and capitals and services. Again, like there is an important treaty that is known as Treaty of Vienna. It was signed in 1850. According to Treaty of Vienna, which was signed in 1850, Bourbon dynasty was restored to power in France. A series of states created on the France boundary for preventing French expansion in future. German Confederation was left untouched, and main intention was to restore the monarchies that have been overthrown by Napoleon. Right now, here are some important revolutionaries related to the history. The first one is Giuseppe Mazzini. He was born in Geneva in 1870. He was member of the secret society of Carbonari and founded Young Italy in Marseilles, Young Europe in Brno. So he basically founded two parties, Young Italy and Young Europe. And he believed in the unification of Italy into a republic. So he was a strong propagandist of unification of Italy. And the next is Count Camillo de Cavour. He led the movement to unify Italy. He was neither a revolutionary nor a democrat. Through a tactful diplomatic alliance engineered by him, he succeeded in defeating the Austrian forces in 1859. What is the Greek War of Independence? Now, this is again a very important thing. Greece had been part of Ottoman Empire since the 15th century. The growth of revolutionary nationalism in Europe sparked off a struggle for independence between the Greeks, which began in 1821. Nationalists in Greece got support from other Greeks living in exile and also from many West Europeans who had sympathies for ancient Greek culture. Finally, the Treaty of Constantinople of 1823 recognized Greece as an important nation. So Greece was recognized as an important nation when Treaty of Constantinople was signed. Frankfurt Parliament. Now, what is the Frankfurt Parliament? It was an all-German national assembly formed by middle-class professionals, particularly, including businessmen and prosperous artisans belonging to different German regions. It was convened on 18th May 1848 and it was disbanded on 31st May 1849 as it lost its support. So now, talking from the board's point of view, now the next question is very important, which is the role of women in national struggle. Now, what was the role of women? To make a changes, obviously, women's space always plays a very important role. Now, the women of the liberal middle class combined their demands for constitutionalism with national unification. They took advantage of the growing popular unrest to push their demands for the creation of nation state of parliamentary principle, a constitution, freedom of the press, and freedom of association. So they started demanding three things: a constitution, freedom of the press, and freedom of association, so that they can form a group, they can express their opinions, they can demand certain things from the government. Women had formed their own political associations, founded newspapers, and taken part in political meetings and demonstrations. So they started assuming their own responsibility, and they started realizing that yes, they should also have a proper role in formation of the government. This question: what steps did the French revolutionists take to create a sense of collective identity among the French people? I don't think so. This question is important. However, you can go through it. I've given you the notes here. And okay, now who were Marine and Germania? What was the importance of the way in which they were portrayed? Now, this is again a very important question. Female allegories were invented by artists in the 19th century to represent the nations. Marine, a popular Christian name, underlined the idea of a people's nation. So it should be ruled by people. Her characteristics was drawn from those of liberty and the republic. The red cap, the tricolor, the cockades. Statue of Marine were erected in public squares to remind the public of the national symbol of unity and to persuade them to identify with it. The image of Marine was marked on coins and stamps to make it familiar with all the people. Now, Germania became the allegory of German nation. In visual presentations, Germania wears a crown of oak leaves, as the German oak stands for heroism. Now, briefly trace the process of German unification. Yes, it's again very important question. National sentiments were often mobilized by conservatives for promoting state power and achieving political domination over Europe. Now, this can be absorbed in the process by which Germany and Italy came to be unified as nation states. Now, middle class Germans, they tried to unite the different regions of German Confederation, but their plans were not materialized due to actions of large landowners called Junkers of Prussia. 3 wars over 7 years with Austria, Denmark, and France ended in a Prussian victory. So Prussia finally emerged victorious among the war with Austria and Denmark. And in Jan 1871, Prussian King William I was proclaimed German Emperor. Importance was given to modernizing the currency, banking, legal, and judicial system in Germany. So now we can conclude that people started realizing about their rights. They started thinking about how they can improve the condition of the economy along with their own well-being. Now, what changes did Napoleon introduce to make the administrative system more efficient in the territories ruled by him? Now, this is again very important question. What are the various steps taken by Napoleon Bonaparte to improve the conditions of the territories ruled by him? Now, already discussed, the Civil Code of 1804 was signed, usually known as Napoleon Codes. So it did away with all the privilege based on birth, established equality before the law, and secured the right to property. The code was exported to the regions under French control. In the Dutch Republic, in Switzerland, in Italy, and in Germany, Napoleon simplified the administrative divisions, abolished the feudal system, and freed peasants from serfdom and manorial dues. In the towns too, key restrictions were removed. Transport and communication systems were improved. Peasants, artisans, workers, and new businessmen enjoyed newfound freedom. Businessmen and small-scale producers of goods, in particular, began to realize that uniform law, standardized weights and measures, and a common national currency would facilitate the movement and exchange of goods and capital from one region to another. So, Napoleon Bonaparte basically he contributed in the overall growth and development of the economy. Now, here is a question: how was the history of nationalism in Britain unlike the rest of the Europe? What was the difference between the nationalism in Europe and nationalism in Britain? So I've given you a note here. You can have a look over it. Yes, again, like an important question. Why did national tensions emerge in the Balkans? So Balkan basically it was a region of geographical and ethnic variations comprising modern day Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, Greece, Macedonia, Croatia, Bosnia, Slovenia, Serbia, and Montenegro, who were broadly known as Slavs. A large part was under the control of Ottoman Empire. Gradually, independence was declared from them. Now, Ottoman Empire, I guess you must have already read it out earlier in class 9th also. The spread of the ideas of romantic nationalism in the Balkans together with disintegration of the Ottoman Empire made this region very explosive. These are the one-liner notes. In case you find it suitable, you can note it down in your notebook. The French Revolution and the idea of the nation. Now, the first clear expression of nationalism came with the French Revolution in 1789. The political and constitutional changes that came in the wake of the French Revolution led to the transfer of sovereignty from the monarchy to a body of French citizens. The ideas of La Patrie, that is the fatherland, and La Quotidien, that is the citizens, that is the country and the citizen, emphasize the notion of united community implying equal rights under a constitution. The French armies began to carry the idea of nationalism abroad because French armies used to get deployed in international countries, so they used to carry the idea of nationalism in those countries also. And of course, Civil Code of 1804, also known as Napoleon Code. Now, let us understand the development of nationalism did not come about only through wars and territorial expansions, but culture also played a very important, crucial role in creating the idea of the nation. It was through art and poetry, stories, and music helped to express and shape national feelings. Let us look at Romanticism, a cultural movement which sought to develop a particular form of nationalist sentiments. Romantic artists and poets generally criticize the glorification of reason and science and focus instead on emotions, institutions, and mystical feelings. Other romantics were through folk songs, folk poetry, folk dances, that the true spirit of the nation. Now, national feelings were kept alive through music and language. So, understand, like when we see the things, when we read the things, it hardly casts much impact on our mind. But when we start analyzing the things in a romantic way, uh, getting them connected with the nature, understanding them with the heart, and singing them in a systematic manner, in a rhythmic manner. It casts an everlasting impression in our mind. So language also played an important role in developing national sentiments. Like French was declared as the national language, and Russian language was also imposed everywhere. Many members of the clergy in Poland began to use language as a weapon of national resistance. And as a result, a large number of priests and bishops were put in jail or sent to Siberia by the Russian authorities as punishment for their refusal to preach in Russians. So those who were denying not to preach or not to deliver lectures in Russian language, they were being sent to exile or in jail. Hunger, hardship, and popular revolt. Yes, in 1830, it was an year of great economic hardship in Europe. The first half of the 19th century saw an enormous increase in population. Of course, when population increases, the means to satisfy their wants, it got diminished. So the people were demanding more and more of the things, and the supply of the things were very less in quantity. In most countries, that were more seekers of jobs than employment. So employment generation was also very less compared to the people seeking jobs. Population from rural areas migrated to the cities to live in overcrowded slum. Food shortage and widespread unemployment brought the population of Paris out on the roads. Now, National Assembly proclaimed a republic, granted suffrage to all other males. Suffrage means everybody who is attaining the age of 20 years, 21 years, they are entitled to vote, single non-transferable votes, and guaranteed the right to work. In 1845, weavers in Silesia had left a revolt against contractors who supplied them raw materials and gave them orders for finished textiles. Now, the process of making up Germany and Italy. Nationalisms in Europe moved away from its association with democracy and revolution. So, I've given it a very clear differentiation between unification of Germany and unification of Italy. You can go through it, you can understand. And before I finish up, some of our students also want to get it summarized in Hindi because English notes I've already shown over here. So let me quickly summarize it in Hindi. So the chapter's name is यूरोप में राष्ट्रवाद का उदय. So राष्ट्रवाद like nationalism होता क्या है basically? राष्ट्रवाद ये एक ऐसी मतलब अव्यवस्था की प्रणाली है जो एक राष्ट्र के सदस्यों के बीच आम पहचान की भावना पैदा करती है. राष्ट्रीय ध्वज, राष्ट्रीय प्रतीक, राष्ट्रीय गान आदि राष्ट्रवाद के विचार को विकसित करने और उसे मजबूत करने में महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाते हैं. एक इसमें टॉपिक भी है हमारे इसी चैप्टर में, यूरोप में राइज ऑफ नेशनलिज्म इन यूरोप. उसको समझते हैं. 19th सेंचुरी के मिड के पहले, मतलब 19वीं सदी के मध्य के पहले, यूरोप के देशों के रूप में जैसा हम आज उन्हें जानते हैं वैसा हम उस टाइम उन्हें नहीं जानते थे. यूरोप में विभिन्न क्षेत्रों में, अलग अलग क्षेत्रों में कई बहुराष्ट्रीय वंशावली साम्राज्यों ने, अलग अलग डायनास्टी के लोगों ने शासन किया था. ये राजशाही थे जो अपने विषयों पर पूर्ण शक्तियों का आनंद उठाते थे. विभिन्न तकनीकी और आगामी आने वाले सामाजिक परिवर्तन ने राष्ट्रवाद के विचारों को विकसित करने में मदद की. राष्ट्र राज्यों के निर्माण की प्रक्रिया 1789 में शुरू हुई फ्रेंच क्रांति के साथ. जब फ्रांस की क्रांति हुई थी तब उस समय ये शुरू हुई और यह दृढ़ संकल्प हासिल करने के विचार में 100 साल लग गए, जिसके परिणाम स्वरूप फ्रांस लोकतांत्रिक राष्ट्र राज्य के रूप में स्थापित हुआ. यूरोप के अन्य हिस्सों में इस प्रवृत्ति का पालन किया गया और दुनिया के अधिकांश हिस्सों में आधुनिक लोकतांत्रिक व्यवस्था की स्थापना हुई. फ्रांस की क्रांति के कारण राजनीति और फ्रांस के संविधान में बहुत ज्यादा बदलाव आया. 1789 में सत्ता का राजशाही से नागरिकों के शरीर तक का स्थानांतरण किया गया. यह घोषित किया गया था कि अब से फ्रांसीसी लोग अपने देश के भाग्य को आकार देंगे. मतलब जो फ्रांस के जो लोकल लोग हैं वही अपने देश का भाग्य निर्माण करेंगे, किसी और के बहकावे में आकर, किसी और राज्य के प्रभाव में आकर के वो प्रभावित नहीं होंगे. लोगों के बीच आम पहचान की भावना पैदा करने के लिए क्रांतिकारियों द्वारा, जो रिवोल्यूशनरीज थे, उनके द्वारा विभिन्न कदम उठाए गए और उसमें से कुछ कदम के बारे में मैं आपको बताता हूं. सबसे पहला था कि जनसंख्या और नागरिक का विचार एक समुदाय पर जोर देने के लिए बनाया गया था, जिसने संविधान के तहत समान अधिकारों का आनंद लिया था. शाही मानक को एक नया फ्रेंच ध्वज के साथ बदल दिया गया और जो स्टेट्स था उसको बदल करके नेशनल असेंबली का नाम रख दिया गया था. और एक कॉमन नाम बनाया गया था राष्ट्र का, और उसके नाम पर नए हिम्स बनाए गए थे, भजन बनाए गए थे और शपथ ली गई थी। और उसी समय उस शपथ समारोह के समय शहीदों का स्मरण किया गया था, मतलब जिन्होंने फ्रांस की क्रांति को लाने में अपना अभूतपूर्व योगदान दिया, उन लोगों को याद किया गया था। उसके बाद एक केंद्रीकृत सेंट्रलाइज एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सिस्टम, केंद्रीकृत प्रशासनिक व्यवस्था बनाई गई, जिसमें सभी नागरिकों के लिए समान कानून तैयार किए गए, कि चाहे वो पीजेंट हो, चाहे वो मजदूर हो, चाहे वो अपर हाई क्लास हो, या चाहे वो गरीब हो, सबके लिए सेम रूल है। ठीक है। और जो इंटरनल कस्टम ड्यूटीज थे, उनके आंतरिक कस्टम कर्तव्य थे, उसको समाप्त कर दिया गया था। और वजन के लिए, मेजर्स के लिए एक समान प्रणाली अपनाई गई थी। जो रीजनल लैंग्वेज थी उनको खत्म किया गया था, और फ्रेंच भाषा को राष्ट्र की आम भाषा के रूप में बढ़ावा दिया गया था। क्रांतिकारियों ने बाद में यह भी घोषणा किया कि यह फ्रांसीसी लोगों का मिशन और भाग्य है, जो यूरोप के लोगों को तानाशाह से मुक्त करने और यूरोप के अन्य क्षेत्रों में राष्ट्र बनने में मदद करता है। ठीक है। और उसके बाद क्या हुआ कि यूरोप के विभिन्न शहरों में लोग जो फ्रांस में होने वाली घटनाएं थी उससे मोटिवेटेड होने लगे, प्रेरित होने लगे। और उसका नतीजा ये हुआ कि शिक्षित मध्य वर्ग के छात्र और अन्य लोगों ने जैकोबिन क्लब स्थापित करना स्टार्ट कर दिया। मतलब उनको लगा कि अब हमें भी अपने देश के लिए कुछ करना चाहिए, तो उन्होंने मिलकर एक क्लब स्थापित किया जिसका नाम था जैकोबिन क्लब। उनकी गतिविधियों ने फ्रांसीसी सेनाओं द्वारा आगे अतिक्रमण के लिए एक आधार बनाया, और फ्रांसीसी सेना हॉलैंड, बेल्जियम, स्विट्जरलैंड और 1790 में इटली का एक बड़ा हिस्सा बनते चले गए। इस प्रकार फ्रांसीसी सेनाओं ने राष्ट्रवाद के विचार को विदेशों में ले जाने के लिए शुरुआत किया। अब थोड़ा सा जानते हैं नेपोलियन के बारे में। फ्रांस की बात हो और नेपोलियन के बारे में अगर डिस्कशन ना करें तो फ्रांस का इतिहास अधूरा सा लगता है। नेपोलियन 1804 से 1815 तक फ्रांस के सम्राट थे, किंग थे। हालांकि नेपोलियन ने फ्रांस में राजतंत्र को पुनः शुरू करके फ्रांस में लोकतंत्र को नष्ट कर दिया था, डेमोक्रेसी को नष्ट कर दिया था उसने, लेकिन उसने प्रशासन के क्षेत्र में क्रांतिकारी परिवर्तन किए थे। यह विचार प्रणाली को अधिक तर्कसंगत और कुशल बनाने के लिए था, और उसने 1804 की नागरिक संहिता, जो आमतौर पर नेपोलियन संहिता मतलब नेपोलियंस कोड के नाम से जाना जाता है, जन्म के आधार पर सभी विशेषाधिकार समाप्त कर दिए गए थे, कि जो लोग को जन्म के आधार पर जो ड्यूटीज रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज मिल रही है या जो फंडामेंटल राइट्स मिल रहे हैं उसको खत्म कर दिया था इसने। इसने कानून के समक्ष समानता की स्थापना की और संपत्ति का अधिकार सुरक्षित रखा, कि सबको संपत्ति रखने का अधिकार है। यहाँ तक कि उन क्षेत्रों में जो उसके नियंत्रण में आए थे, नेपोलियन ने कई सुधारों को शुरू किया, जैसा उसने फ्रांस में किया था। नेपोलियन ने ड्यूक रिपब्लिक, डच रिपब्लिक, स्विट्जरलैंड, इटली और जर्मनी में एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव डिपार्टमेंट्स को ईजी बनाया। उसने सामंती प्रणाली को भी खत्म कर दिया, और किसानों को गुलाम और श्रमिक बकाया से मुक्त किया जा सकता है, ऐसा पॉलिसी बनाया उसने। शहरों में जो गिल्ड रेस्ट्रिक्शंस थे उसको हटा दिया गया था, और ट्रांसपोर्ट और कम्युनिकेशन में सुधार किया उसने। लोगों की जो एक्टिविटीज थी, किसान, कारीगर, मजदूर, इन सब लोगों ने इस नई फ्रीडम का आनंद लिया जो नेपोलियन बोनापार्ट ने उनको दिया। लेकिन जो जो रीजंस जो फ्रांस ने जीते थे, फ्रांसिस का रूल था उसके ऊपर, उसमें सब लोगों की, उन एरियाज के लोगों की, फ्रांस के लोगों के प्रति अलग अलग सबकी फीलिंग्स थी। स्टार्टिंग में फ्रांसीसी सेनाओं को स्वतंत्रता के रूप में देखा गया, स्वतंत्रता के सिंबल के रूप में देखा गया, लेकिन बहुत जल्दी ये लोग महसूस करने लगे कि नई प्रशासनिक व्यवस्था राजनीतिक स्वतंत्रता की गारंटी नहीं दे रहा है। कि एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रिफॉर्म्स तो आया है, लेकिन पॉलिटिकल रिफॉर्म नहीं आया हमारे कंट्री में। टैक्सेस में बढ़ती होने लगे, इंक्रीज होने लगे टैक्सेस, सेंसरशिप, और फ्रेंच सेनाओं में जबरन कारावास की प्रक्रिया को नेपोलियन ने लाया, कि जो हमारी बात नहीं मानेगा उसको हम एक्साइल कर देंगे। तो इन सब चीज़ों से लोगों में दुश्मनी की फीलिंग, भावना आनी शुरू हो गई थी। तो कुल मिलाकर यही है, और यही हमारा चैप्टर खत्म होता है। इसमें के बाद अगर आपको कुछ डाउट है तो आप कमेंट्स में नीचे कर सकते हैं, और क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हैं, हम डेफिनेटली आंसर्स के साथ आपको नए वीडियोस अपलोड करेंगे। थैंक यू सो मच गाइस, एंड थैंक यू, गुड डे।